Hi, it's Robert Mendelson, Fractional CMO here in beautiful Montreal, welcoming you to another episode of the Fractional Pros Canada podcast. We're part of Fractional Pros Canada, the home for Canada's fractional community, and you can find us on Facebook. We bring you conversations about everything fractional that matters, for fractional executives and businesses from coast to coast. Think of this as your go-to spot for real talk, practical wisdom, and strategies you can actually use, all without the corporate fluff and with plenty of Canadian content. Whether you're a fractional pro or a business in our great country of Canada and beyond, this conversation is for you. Grab your espresso and let's dive in. Welcome to the Fractional Pros Canada podcast. I'm your host and fractional CMO, Robert Mendelson, here in beautiful Montreal. Today we have a special episode featuring two members from our very own Fractional Pros Canada community who have taken the concept of ecosystem collaboration to the next level. Joining us today, we have Achim from Vancouver, from beautiful down the street Vancouver. Achim, the causal CMO, GTM advisory expert, known for his Better At movement and helping tech companies unsuck their marketing. And we have Ariel Levinson from Toronto. I've heard of that place, just down the street. Strategic B2B global marketing leader who has led launches across 35 countries for brands like Scotiabank and Johnson Controls. And there is a third person who is a part of this story who we will talk about, James Bradford, fractional CMO and a growth systems architect specializing in AI-driven GTM strategy for SaaS and tech. Couldn't join us today, unfortunately, due to illness, but we will be including his story as part of this conversation. This episode, sponsored by Fractional Pros Canada, the home of Canada's fractional executive community. Fractional Pros Canada is the ecosystem where almost 1,500 Canadian fractional executives find their community, build their network, and create opportunities that would not exist anywhere else. Learn more at fractionalproscanada.ca. Achim, Ariel, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having
Robert.
us.
This is a special pod for me because when I started the community back in 2025, I could only dream that we'd be doing a podcast today with you guys who met through the community and formed a company, a collective, a new business, thanks to having met through the community. And nothing warms my heart more than knowing that I played some kind of part in that. So this is a really special episode for me, and I'm so happy to have been able to enable this to some level. So let's start off. Let's talk about both of you, Ariel and Achim. You're both fractionals. I always like to understand your journeys as to what were you doing before you became a fractional, and what made you decide, at what moment did that little switch go off and you say, hey, I think I'm just going to be a full-time fractional. So who wants to hop in there first? Achim, it looks like you're raring to go.
Sure, I'll start because you're the reason why I was reached out to Ariel, and this is why we're together here today. So yeah, absolutely, Robert, you got tons of influence of that. So thank you for putting this amazing program together, because without it, I wouldn't have met Ariel, and through Ariel, I wouldn't have met James, and we wouldn't have had the synergy that we have today, which is, just the beginning of some great things to come for sure. Prior to being a fractional, I didn't really know that I wanted to be a fractional. I actually got part of the tech COVID headhunting boom, and then I was part of the tech COVID post-COVID layoff boom. My journey prior to that, ran an agency for 15 years, and went back to client side for 10 some odd years, and then of course got downsized, and then nobody really hires anybody in marketing that's 60 years old or older. So I decided to go back on my own and just consult. That turned into a fractional consulting role, and I haven't really looked back. It's been great. I've had some really good clients, and learned a ton from just being back in the ring for myself. So that's my story.
All right.
Yeah, well, kind of similar to Achim. more than 30 years working in marketing in the corporate world, originally from Argentina, moved to Canada 24 years ago. Back in Argentina, worked on the leading supermarket national chain, media. Here in Canada, working on the agency side, as you mentioned, for Scotiabank, and then 13 years working with global technology companies. And I didn't think of becoming a fractional. Also, like he mentioned, sometimes companies get to a point that they don't want to hire too experienced, too old people like us, and I was frustrated with some job search, and I thought that this concept of fractional was perfect for what the general situation was happening here in Canada, and I think in general in the world. That is, that companies sometimes need people experienced like us that have gone through tons of challenges and projects and complexity, but they don't need to have that person in a full-time role under the payroll. So they can bring us on board to not only develop the strategy, but we also understand how to execute it. So we can help on mentoring the internal team about how to execute successfully those strategies that we put in place. So that's kind of the story of going through multiple industries and then becoming a fractional. So one aspect was definitely to see that companies needed this kind of professional profile. The other was the kind of the seed of the idea that put us together, that was this trade war with the US. And seeing that Canada was relying just in one client, in one market, and the need for Canadian business and business owners to diversify and find alternative markets. And that's where I said my more than 20 years of experience working internationally could help those Canadian business to be successful on that expansion.
You know, it's interesting. Both of you mentioned the gray hair, the age, the senior aspect that most fractionals do fall into. I think the average age of fractionals in the community is somewhere in the probably late 40s to early 50s, somewhere around there. And I've, you know, in the back of my mind, I've been wanting to do an episode actually about ageism and people who've experienced that. And that's for another time. But it's interesting. I was reading just this morning that the average age of CEOs now is much higher than it was. I think they were comparing it to 2010. And that's the trend where it's going. And also the number of people who are older are working longer. And I think that AI is actually a good thing for folks like us with the gray hairs. Achim, you're doing very well on that. On that end. I don't see a lot of gray there, so you have to share your secret with us.
Just DNA now, just DNA.
It's a Grecian formula. But I think AI is actually increasing our value as, you know, especially as time goes on. Companies want experience. They want the gray hairs. And unfortunately, you know, the new generation in their, you know, late teens, early 20s, just starting out, we keep hearing they're gonna not have those opportunities to get those same start off experiences, junior experiences that we've all had, because there's no AI back in our day. And now AI has kind of taken away a lot of those jobs. So it's going to be interesting to see where things go on that level. But I think it just is a plus for us as the more, in quotes, experienced folks to provide even more value to companies than ever before.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I just want to say on that is that I think it's our responsibility to pass the torch when it comes to the critical thinking piece. You're right. I mean, AI is not going to go anywhere. It's here to stay, and it can be scary for young generation to try to figure out where the hell do I fit into to all this stuff. I think it's up to us as the gray hairs to be the sage advisors and give them the opportunity to understand what the difference is between just doing and, ticking off a checkbox, as opposed to critically thinking about something and then using the tool for that outcome, right? So I think there's some responsibility for the older generation to be that mentor and that coach that Ariel was talking about earlier.
Yeah, pay it forward. Pay it forward.
Definitely.
So I don't even know the answer to this. When did you guys actually first meet, and how did you meet?
So great story here. So I was on your online first meetup before I met you in Vancouver, actually. And Ariel happened to be on that one as well. And we had a breakout room together, I think, or I think we ended up meeting afterwards. And
I think we ended up meeting afterwards. We connected.
Yeah. And I just said to Ariel, I said, I'm originally from Germany. I still speak German. Kann doch, ja, alles gut. And I've done a lot of work between Europe and Canada and North America and the United States, and helped some companies from the DACH region in Europe expand into North America and vice versa. And so I thought, you're from Argentina originally, and you told me about your Latin American experience. I thought, wow, we should talk about, helping. This is when things started going crazy with the Trump administration and Canada and all the he said, she said stuff. And I thought, well, why don't we just start helping Canadian companies see that there's a better path of, like Ariel said earlier, don't put all your eggs in one basket, start diversifying, start expanding, start doing it now, planting those seeds now, because you never know about Kuzma. And I'm going to hand it over to Ariel, because Ariel had this crystal ball at the time. And he said, I don't know if Kuzma's going to happen. So Ariel, over to you.
But so to continue the story, separately, I met James Bradford, who was in a different session of the Fractionals Pro Canada group. And I also have a one-on-one call with him, and kind of we had that same conversation like with Achim, but it happens that James had experience in East Asia, and he speaks Japanese, and he has worked in Japan, in Malaysia, in Philippines, and says, well, it's like a puzzle that came together. All the pieces were there. And I said, even talking separately, I said, well, we need to get together and do something, because between the three of us, we are covering some of the key markets in the world. But besides the complementary, I think, and it happens when we talk one-on-one with the people that we meet on the usual Fractionals Pro Canada sessions, is when you feel there is a connection, that you share values, that you, even talking for just half an hour, you feel that you have a lot of things in common. And that's what happened with Achim and James, because definitely our similar background in terms of marketing and being in different regions helps. But if you don't have a connection with the other people, it's difficult that you put together an idea and a project like the one we have been working for several months.
So that's where the magic happens, on the virtual meetups that we do at the end of every month, last Tuesday of every month, from 4 to 5:30 Eastern. And for members of the Fractional Pros Canada community, make sure you attend. This is where the magic happens. Here we have living proof. So that's great. So you guys, you discover you have these similarities, the commonalities. You start seeing the vision. Hey, we should all combine our efforts and do the 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 type of thing. But now we're moving into, what do we do next? And what does this look like? And what does it become? Basically, you're moving to building a business together, starting a business together. So walk us through that process. Where did that go from there? And how did you decide where to land as far as what you're going to market with and what role you're all going to play in doing that?
Well, the great thing about sharing values is that we don't always agree on things, and we have over the last 6 months or so of building up Castellar that we have butt heads on things, but there's a lot of mutual respect there, and that's one of the things about working with other people and from other cultures is finding that the way to celebrate the differences, understanding where the frames of reference come from, understanding what the strategy is, what the purpose of all this is, and finding that common ground. And that's one of the things I really respect about Ariel. He's passionate about about these things, as am I, and as is James. So there is a shared, definitely a shared passion amongst all three of us. Very different backgrounds and and sometimes very different disciplines, but at the same time, there's a lot of overlap and cohesion, which is what makes a great team, right? So we're all old enough also to understand that sometimes life just gets in the way, and it is what it is, and we just have to move on. The great thing about the nucleus, though, and how this came to be was after meeting Ariel and James, it was very evident to me, at least, that there was something there that was definitely worth pursuing. The fact that James had all this had the experience of working in APAC, Ariel with his experience with Latin America, and my experience with Europe. It just and as things started to evolve, even with the liberal government and their policies around 20 different deals now in the last year across those regions, and a lot of the timeliness that came from the back and forth between the U.S. and Canada, and even between Europe and Asia and the U.S. and Canada, things just started to we would really be fools if we didn't at least try this. And then trying is one thing, but actually doing is the other thing. And so the long story short is, we ended up going back and forth on a whole bunch of stuff, like the naming, the branding, all stuff. But the great thing is that Ariel is married to this amazing, talented, super uber designer, and she knocked it out of the park. His wife did a great job of helping us solidify our brand, which is amazing. So that's one of the reasons why this is so cool, and I think it's so timely.
Yeah, I think that what he was saying, yeah, definitely we saw the general situation in the market. We saw there's going to be a need from people like us with this experience where we can help jump all those hurdles. That's nobody's saying it's easy to diversify, and we understand that it requests a change of mindset for Canadian business owners that for decades had got used to deal with one market with very known characteristics. But there are people like us that for many years have done this, about launching products and services in multiple markets with different cultures, with different habits. And we are willing to help those businesses to be successful. So the process that he mentioned, once we have the idea and we saw that the general environment was aligning. It says the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal government, everybody was aligning with this concept of encouraging Canadian business to diversify, to have a much better healthy portfolio rather than relying in one source. And not only to survive, but to grow, because I think that one of the things that in general people or the Canadian business doesn't know or doesn't recognize is how strong the Canadian brand is outside, how much respect. And that's something that very few countries has. And that's one of the advantages that we have in terms of of reducing the barriers to get into new markets because the Canadian brand is so strong.
Yeah, that's a great point that, as Canadians in general and Canadian businesses, of course, we tend to underestimate ourselves. A lot of people always say the difference between Canadians and Americans is Americans dream much bigger than Canadians do, right? You ask a Canadian business leader, what's your goal with your business? How big you want to get? And you say 10 million. And you ask the same question to an American business and they say 100 million. And, they always say to the Canadian guy, you're not dreaming big enough. So it's kind of that. And now, of course, things are changing. Do you get a sense that Canadian businesses are now starting to realize that, actually, do they realize that the brand of Canada, a Canadian business, is not only better than, they always thought it was, but is actually growing and getting higher now, given everything going on in the political climate? Is this a trend where Canadian businesses are starting to not just look beyond the US market, but also embracing the notion that they actually are a strong brand because they're Canadian?
Well, we just lost Ariel, but one of what I'll say is this: is that first and foremost, that this isn't. We're not doing this because this is an us and them thing. There's a lot of U.S. businesses that are hurting. There are a lot of businesses U.S. There's a lot of citizens in the U.S. who are empathetic to what's going on, and in fact, we're actually working right now with a company out in Michigan, and in early talks with them about expanding into Canada, as an example. So we're not saying that this is a Canada versus United States personal thing, or we don't want to get into that because I don't think that's what it is. This is more of a geopolitical issue rather than, let's say, a business to business issue. Although there are some businesses that have to alter their course just because of the tariffs, as an example. So I get that. To answer your question around, are we getting a sense that businesses are starting to see that? I think so. I think there's still quite a few that are on the fence, and the reason why I say that is because Mark Carney's recent address to using his YouTube channel, where he's talking about not waiting anymore. I think that's his call to action to Canadian businesses to, it's time to draw a line in the sand and move forward. We're not going back. Will things be different? Yes. Will things go back to being the same? I don't think so. Probably never will be going back to the same. Even if we have a new administration in the next, say, upcoming election, I don't think it'll go back to what it was pre the Trump administration. I think it'll continue to evolve, and I think the strengths of our two nations will find ways to work together again and try to create a proactive alliance as what we had for the last 70, 80 years. But I don't think Canadians right now, or Canadian businesses, are at that point where they're like, okay, let's do it. I think now they're more of the taking Mark Carney's a point of not waiting, and now they're trying to figure out, okay, I can't wait anymore. What can I do now? And that's why Ariel and James and I created Castellar, was to throw our name into the ring and say, look, I mean, you may want to talk to us. We've done this for the last 30 some odd years. We know the ins and outs. We don't know all the ins and outs. We do know some great people as well. We're not saying we have all the answers, but we can definitely find them for you.
And I love hearing that you guys are not just getting interest from companies in Canada, but also south of the border. And like you said, it was a great point to bring up, Achim. It's not an us and them thing. There's a lot of businesses in the U.S. who are also suffering for the same reasons because of the same tariffs, et cetera. So it's great to hear that you guys are cross-border, which it just makes sense because your brand is all about cross-border, not just Canada-U.S. border, but global borders. I'm curious, how did you guys come up with the name Castelar Marketing? It's called Castelar Market Expansion. That's the company name?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
How do you
I'm going to hand this over to Ariel because we went back and forth on a number of names, but the reason why we chose Castellar is I think it's more, it's rooted in Ariel's cultural background. So over to Ariel.
Yeah, well, it was, I think, one of the most difficult things that we had to do on building this. We have a clear understanding of our positioning, of what we were going to offer, but it took a long time to find a brand that we felt represented. And Achim was kind of the idea of not going with a name that sounds a consulting company anywhere in the world, that we needed to find something that was personal. And it happens that back in Argentina, I spent my childhood and till I was a teenager in a city that is called Castellar. And when I brought the name, it says, "Oh, that sounds interesting. That sounds different." But we did a tweak, and we added a double L, and so we have the Castellar. Is that we are a stellar cast of fractionals or go-to-market advisors helping business, and that is how we came to this name that is we kind of find pretty unique because we didn't find any business with this name in general, and immediately we fall in love, and then is where then we started building the branding and the design around the name.
That's a great name origin story. And thank you. You've put my mind to rest, because leading up to this, I was thinking of that name. Often what happens when three people come together and you form a company, the name somehow draws on each of the founders' names. And I'm wondering, Castelar, right? So the C is somewhere from Achim's name, and the A is from...
Yeah. To be honest, we are not going to lie. We thought about that too.
Oh God,
that's often where the arguments start, right? No, we should all be equally represented in the name.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about naming is it's very difficult to do, and it's funny because the town that Ariel's from only has one L in Castellar, and but there is a town in Spain that has Castellar with two L's. So I just said it's that connection between Argentina and Spain that have that Castellar, and plus just the fact that there's a stellar cast of fractionals also help. But that was sort of a secondary sort of aha moment for us after we saw it. But what I loved is just this connection between two completely different continents with just one L, and that's what kind of stuck with me. So that's why I like it.
So if I'm a business leader, right, and I've been thinking about expanding, I'm at the point where I know I'm going to start expanding, but I don't know where. I'm looking at the map on Google, and I'm like, there's so many markets I see here. How do I decide where to start looking first, what direction to go, and what are those first steps when you're working with a client as far as that goes?
Well, it's really just understanding what their goals are. Some know more than others. It's our job to listen, and listen for those cues to be able to say, okay, well, if you haven't thought of the logistics, because logistics is a big part of this as well. The legal aspect is a big part of it. Different jurisdictions around the world have different laws, so you have to understand what that is. I think the way that I'm just going to say that the way that Mark Carney's going about it is kind of how you have to sort of come at it, and you have to work to seek to understand first and foremost before you can offer any kind of solution. No one has a crystal ball, so you can't really say yes or no to anything really until you really understand where the business is headed, and ultimately what they're trying to achieve in that new market. Can they localize? Can they bridge the cultural gaps? And if not, like, what do they need to do to make that happen? So Ariel's got a ton more to add to that, I'm sure.
No, you're right. I think that there is no one recipe. I think that, and I think that's one of the key when you approach working internationally. You need to be extremely open-minded and have a sensibility of understanding the local culture, their behaviors, how they consume, how they use it, because a product or a service that could be extremely successful here in Canada, maybe it's not in Latin America, but it works great in Europe or in Asia Pacific. So that is kind of our approach. If having a deep conversation with the business owner, understanding well the product and the service, to be able to be in a position to recommend the best option for that product or service.
I'm curious what the role of the current logistics landscape plays when a company decides, obviously if it's more of a product than a service, to expand to another market, an overseas market. Are things changing as far as, well, we should just drop ship, we'll use a courier to drop ship? Or is it trending more towards we need to set up, boots on the ground and some kind of warehouse distribution center where we can warehouse our product and use that as our hub? Any trends you're seeing there one way or the other?
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the earlier partnerships that we created was with a company out of Belgium, and they're based out of the Brussels airport, and they have exactly what you're talking about. They actually have warehousing for that specific need of expanding globally within like they can literally get a company off and running in 2 weeks. So if you've got products that you need to get into Europe, Eric, who runs Vedi out of Belgium, can do that, because they're literally like right at the airport. They've got thousands of square feet of warehousing space. They already got clients from the UK doing this, and they're of course looking for Canadian companies that have products and services, especially products that they want, quote unquote, boots on the ground and warehousing. So that is definitely the trend that we're seeing. I wouldn't be surprised if that model is being replicated everywhere right now.
Yeah, but you also have countries that are extremely protective from their local industry, like Brazil. So those are countries that you will need to think about establishing some kind of subsidiary or ensembling, because going with a final product to the country could be taxed very highly and will not be as competitive as it should be. So you need to analyze case by case, and that's where when he was mentioning the holistic approach of understanding not only the culture that we talk about the market, but also all the legal aspects, the logistics. So you need to approach all the angles and to find the right market for that particular product.
So if I'm a fractional in the community and I have met with maybe just once, maybe in a virtual meetup, a monthly virtual meetup, somebody else, and at some point I thought, that could be some kind of relationship worth exploring to see where this goes. Maybe there's some synergies for us to work together very closely, but they haven't really acted on it. They're not sure. They're afraid of rejection, which I think everybody is at some level. What is your advice to those fractionals who are kind of sitting on the fence about what they should do next?
Just start the conversation. Like, just honestly, I mean, look, here's one thing that I've learned over the years, and this is, I'm gonna paraphrase our wonderful astronaut, Colonel Chris Hadfield, and that is, everyone struggles. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone struggles. So as long as you know that, the person that you're talking to is probably struggling too. So reach out. There's nothing wrong with it. I love the fact that Ariel made the effort to make the connection after we met on the Fractional Pros. He reached out to me right away and said, let's talk. So we talk, and we had a chat, and here we are, 7-8 months later, and we've got a great little, venture going, and it's probably going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because of it. So, you just need to reach out.
Yeah. And I think that, nobody knows everything. We know something. We are an expert maybe through the years in a few things, but we need to recognize where are our strengths and where are our weaknesses, and where do we need to bring on board somebody who really knows about that particular matter or topic. So I think for the fractionals, there are a lot of professions that are intertwined, that needs that needs from the other to complement and to complete a particular project. So I think that's the beauty of the Fractionals Pro Canada group, is that you have people from the most diverse backgrounds that not necessarily are competing for the same kind of client, but they can complement each other. And also the vast geography where they are located, because we have people from all over the country. So sometimes you are going to need something in another province where you are not, and they are on the ground and they will know things that you don't know that can help you. Same thing, vice versa. So that's why I think you need to be open-minded and don't be scared, and go and talk with everybody.
Yeah, as another great Canadian once said, Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. There you go. Have you guys ever met actually in person, all three of you?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, there you go. So again, if you're a fractional thinking, oh, I really need to meet this person, in front of me to see if there's synergy, to know if it's going to work, the chemistry, I couldn't possibly, make this work virtually. Well, there's your answer.
Absolutely.
That objection just got taken off the table.
Yeah, I think that all of us learned a lot during COVID times about what is to connect virtually, but still connect with others, even through a screen. And that's the thing that it happened with us, that we definitely we would love to go get together for lunch or dinner or something, but you can build a meaningful connection even not being in the same province or city.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to us about the different synergies that you all bring to the table. I'm sure there's overlaps, but have you also done the exercise of identifying, who's got particular strengths in these areas that the other two don't have, which makes, everybody completes each other? Talk to us a little bit about, have you done that, what that looks like?
Oh yeah, we I think the three of us learned that right off the get-go. That I'm definitely more of a pragmatic. I take things one step at a time, and I try to seek to understand things deeply first and foremost. My last probably 10 some odd years of being in senior roles has given me a little more insight and discipline around just really understanding who the buyer is, especially, and putting yourself in the shoes of the people who are trying to buy what you have. One of the things I keep coaching my clients' teams is before you hit send or before you hit publish, would you engage with this? And if the answer is no, why are you creating it? Why are you writing this thing? Why are you making this ad if you would not engage with it yourself? Putting yourself in the shoes of the buyer of the ICP that we just created. We know who the ICP is. If you yourself wouldn't engage with this, why are you creating it? Like, and so it's just like thinking a little differently about the marketing execution that we end up doing. So that's kind of where my head is at. So I've been a bit of a pain in the butt when it comes to that, because I've definitely been pushing, especially when around the naming. That's a good example of that. And even the positioning and the messaging around the brand itself. Right. So that's kind of where I've brought my nuance, which is probably annoying to some degree.
Yeah, and I think that, well, definitely the expertise that each of us has in geographically is one thing that each of us have difference and bring on board as a bonus. But I think each of us has worked in different industries, so that allowed us to cover a broad spectrum of industries and vertical markets. So I think that, yeah, definitely we have different personalities, and but that's I think is the advantage of finding complementing each other. But definitely something that I wanted to mention before is that the three of us share a great sense of humor, and we have fun doing this. Because
we poke a lot at each other.
Because I think if you are not, we have put a lot of hours, and we are going to put many more. But if you are not enjoying doing it and enjoying doing this with the people you're doing this, there is no way you can be successful or on achieving any results.
Yeah, sure. I'm super happy to hear that fun is a priority for you, because most fractionals, when they get to become a fractional, one of the reasons is because they want to have fun. And a lot of fractionals leave the corporate world because after years or decades, they're not having fun anymore. And they're like, I want to have fun again. I'm not getting any younger. So to hear that that's kind of one of your core values is laugh, have fun while we're building this, while we're struggling through what every business struggles, what every startup business struggles through. Keep it light, keep it funny, laugh at ourselves. I'm totally on board with that. I think that's a secret to success right there.
And Robert, just to find the joy in the life that we're living. I mean, life is too short, and we're all at that. I mean, I'm only speaking for the three of us here, but we're all at that point in our age, our lives, where we don't have that much time left. So let's make the best of it and just find the joy in it.
Speak for yourself. I've got another. I'm only halfway through this thing.
Yes.
I see friends who are like, yeah, I'm going to be retiring soon, or I'm retired. And first, I asked them to explain to me what the word retire means, and then I tell them why that's not in my plans whatsoever. I just keep on having fun. Guys, let's wrap it up. If you could put one message on a billboard that fractionals and business leaders drive by every day on the highway of life, what would that message be that millions of people would be seeing every day?
Great question. I don't think there's one answer to it, but the thing that comes to my mind is what we just talked about. Really, is enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey.
Just enjoy the journey. It's not going to happen on your time. Let's be very clear. Enjoy the journey, because it won't happen on your time. So that's probably my advice.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we learn going into fractional is that in some ways is liberating, because when you work for so many years in big corporations, you are you enjoy what you do, but you are limited to what that company does and follow some directions, some policies. But when you are a fractional, you have the freedom to talk with everybody and deal with so different projects. And yes, definitely there is the uncertainty that you will not have your salary deposited in your bank account every 2 weeks. But I think you're gonna get there, and you have the chance to do things that you enjoy, and with a variety of industries and different things that you will never do if you will stay just working for one employer.
So Ariel, let's circle back. What would your billboard message be?
I think that yes, we are aligned with what Achim said, that enjoy the journey. I am enjoying a lot the journey, and meeting incredible people that, as I said, maybe working corporately, I would never have met.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a genuine Fractional Pros Canada success story. I am thrilled to see you guys
That's
together.
you, Robert. You, Robert.
And my greatest pleasure, really. And to you, Ariel, Achim, and James, best of luck. Maybe we'll have you back on in a year or so and see how things are going, and
Yeah, for sure.
and see where the blossoms are flowering, etc. But until then, thanks again so much for joining us here on the Fractional Pros Canada podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us,
Robert.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Fractional Pros Canada podcast. If you're a fractional professional based in Canada, we'd love to have you join us in the Fractional Pros Canada Facebook group, the home for Canada's fractional community. It's where Canadian fractional executives connect, share insights, and help each other succeed. Until next time, I'm Robert Mendelson, Fractional CMO. May your impact be full-time, even if your hours are fractional.